I was talking with my good buddy Andrés Padilla, and he said, Brad, I love all this fabric content that you've got, but my customer is using Databricks. Is there a way that we can utilize Databricks, but still use Microsoft OneLake to take advantage of direct lake data sets for real-time querying in Power BI? I said, yes, Andreas, there is. So today, that's exactly what we're going to cover on Tales from the Field.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be.
Good morning, fabricators. If this is your first time finding your way over to Tales from the Field, give us a like and give us a subscribe. We drop content every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. On Monday, we have our MS Tech Bits. On Tuesday, we have our Azure Data Community Roundtable, where we feature content from the creators in the Azure Data Community for the Azure Data Community. And then on Wednesdays, we have another MS Tech Bits. That's one of the videos you're watching right now, where we get inspired by you, the community, or working with a product group or a customer, and then we share that knowledge with you. Let's not waste any time and get over to that great content. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go to my Azure portal and look at my Databricks workspace. I've already created this, but the key is the pricing tier. I need it to be premium. The reason we need premium is the premium tier allows us to be able to do the Azure Active Directory pass-through, Entra ID pass-through. And we need that to allow the user ID or the service principal that we're going to attach to this workbook to be able to pass through. And the service principal will need access to Microsoft Fabric. So let's launch our Databricks workspace. I'm going to go and create compute specifically for this. You can use whatever compute you would like. I'm just going to use the default for this. The key here is we need to go to advanced options, and then we need to enable credential pass-through for user level data access. Then we're going to create the compute. Once this is spun up, we can then go into our workspace. We're going to create a new folder to be able to store our notebook. And I'm going to call it exactly what I want it to be, something nice and simple, Microsoft Fabric OneLake, because that's what we're doing today. I'm going to click create, and then I go down and I go to my notebook. Now in my notebook, the first thing I'm going to do is create a variable for the path to our OneLake environment. And I'm just going to call it OneLake path, something nice and simple. Now, what I need to do is I need to get that path. So let's flip over to our Fabric workspace, and I'm in my Lakehouse. I'm going to go to my files, and if I click on the three little dots, I can then go to properties. Clicking on properties, you can see there's an ABFS path. That's the path that I need. Now, the path that we get from there utilizes our GUIDs. We could also use plain English. Keep in mind, if you use plain English, you want your workspace to be all lowercase, and you also want to make sure that you don't have any spaces within the name. So if not, use the ABF path. I'm going to load our yellow taxi data. I'm just going to pull it from the traditional data set that we've got within Databricks with the CVS path, loading it from tar.gz. And now I'm going to filter it because I want to make some changes. So I'm going to type filtered data frame. I want it where my yellow taxi data frame, where the fare amount is less than 4 and where the passenger count is greater than 4. So what I want to do is I want to figure out, hey, what are my average tips for 4 passenger vehicles, right? Or 4 passenger workloads. So now I'm going to write this out. It's super simple to be able to write this to OneLake. I'm just going to put my data frame, right format, the format I want. In this case, CSVs, headers are true. I'm going to overwrite anything that might be there, and I'm sending that out to my OneLake path. And then I'm going to do a quick test read, Spark format read, CSV options, header true. And then I'm going to load my OneLake path, and then I'm going to be able to execute that. And I can also read from my OneLake by specifying the path and the files there. Let's just do a quick display to validate that I can look at my OneLake data in my Databricks environment. Boom, there we go. Now, one thing that I did want to note earlier on when I developed this path, I didn't specify this, but you can put a folder structure name that does not exist. It will create it for you. So when I flip over to my environment, I can see there's my Databricks folder and there's my yellow taxi folder sitting in my Fabric Lakehouse. There's the CSV file, not the prettiest name, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to load this to a new table. We could do this in a pipeline. We could do this using a notebook, but I'm just going to right click because it's super easy to be able to do this in Fabric. And I'm going to say yellow taxi passengers for my name for my table. It's going to load, and there's my table. Now, the second this loads up, what I can do is now I can go into a new semantic model. This is the key to getting our direct lake. I'm going to select that table. Now, I don't have a lot of relationships, but I have some things I want to do to this for my semantic model. I specifically want to take payment type, and I'm going to look at this, and it's summing. I don't want it to sum. This is actually a type that tells me what type of payment people are using. So I want this not to be summarized by anything. Now that I've got this in place, I can start looking at my new report. Inside of Microsoft Fabric, I've got my whole Power BI environment. There's my table, my yellow taxi for passengers, my payment type. Let's go ahead and grab this. Now, we don't have a friendly name on these, but I know that 1 is credit card, 2 is cash, 3 is actually disputed, and then 4 there was something else. Looking at this, I can see that the vast majority of my tips for 4 passengers come from type 1. That's a credit card. If I throw it into a line chart, it's super obvious. So let's create a measure. Flipping back over to my data set, what I'm doing is I'm taking and I'm creating a measure for average tip. Again, just a simple measure that I want to be able to use to be able to derive a little more information, but I want to get more specific. Flipping back over to our report, I refresh. It's already there because, again, the semantic model is in OneLake, and all of this is connected, and it refreshes live. Looking at this, I can see my average tip is only $1.61. But I would imagine if we looked at this deeper, we're finding 4 passengers are going to nearby locations. The trip isn't far, which means I get a lot of turnover. And look, if I'm a cab driver, I was a waiter once. I've never been a cab driver. I'd imagine I'm interested in how I get those tips. So now we're good to go. I can save this. We're going to call this again exactly what it is. Tips by payment type. Click save. And there's our report from Databricks to Microsoft Power BI using a OneLake data source underneath the covers. So what did we cover? Well, we covered a lot. We covered how we go into a Databricks workspace, how we create a Python notebook, how we can write directly to OneLake. Then we also cover how we create a semantic model, which allows us to have direct lake query access to Power BI. And then we create a Power BI report off of that data that we loaded from Databricks. Well, you know where we want to keep this going, right? Down in the comments. Any questions? Anything you didn't understand? Something you'd like us to dive into deeper? We would love to hear from you. Once again, thank you so much for joining us on Tales from the Field, and be good to one another. Bye, everybody.
I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood and circulation.